everyone.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Nigeria Decide studio. We're still live on Plus TV Africa, and we're live everywhere. You can go to our YouTube page. It's Plus TV Africa. We're live on Twitter and on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/Plus TV Africa. And on Twitter, it's at Plus TV Africa. Ekene and I have been here all morning when the INEC officials started.
Yes, just
reading
after
out
11 o'clock.
Yes, of course. Reading out the results. And then, of course, they just recently went on a break. They decided they would reconvene at 3 p.m. And to look at the results that have been coming out so far, we have in the studio Najib Bello, he's a political analyst, and Idowu Akinde, he's an IT consultant. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, thank you.
So far, I mean, in the morning we were talking about those who were waiting up all night to hear the results. Now, thank goodness INEC said we could go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and pick up from where we stopped. But so far we've had Osun, Kogi, Gombe, Ekiti, Nasarawa, Yobe, Kwara states. That's what these are the states that the president has won. Now, former Vice President Atiku has taken FCT, Abuja, Ebonyi, Ondo, Abia, and Enugu states. I'll start with you, Najib. The question I asked in the morning was, were you surprised? Because I'm still asking the same question on Twitter. Does any of these states take you by surprise whatsoever?
Not really. Okay. Not really. For Osun, I expected, no matter who won, I knew there was going to be a struggle in Osun, but I expected just a little difference. I thought it would go to the PDP, but then it went to the APC with just a little margin.
Yeah.
But for FCT Abuja, I think I expected that they usually, when the government is bad, they rebel against the government because they know exactly what's happening.
So you think the government is bad?
If they say that something is wrong, then we know something is wrong because that is where the government operates from. They did it in 2015 and they are doing it now. So they know better than most of us. So I expected that we would see them reflect the way things are going in Abuja. Then for the southeastern states, I expected them to go the way of the PDP. Originally, they've always been PDP, even though some have drifted and some are coming back. But then I expected a lot of them. Then, well, for the northern states, yes, I felt most of them would go the way of the APC.
Okay.
And they did.
They are going
significantly. Actually, just looking at the figures from Jigawa,
yes,
which
with the
is quite
latest
striking.
results, also Kaduna, Jigawa, then Anambra for PDP, yes.
But we were discussing Anambra before we came on air, and we're commenting on the fact that even though you had an accreditation of over 2 million,
yes, not an accreditation.
Oh, people who had registered, thank you, of over 2 million. We still only got as much as 600.
Yes.
Where is it? Okay.
I think there are many factors. The security situation, not that there's been a lot of crime there, but these people they've had to go through the whole Python dance operation.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people were wary about.
What about the IPOB?
It's possible. I don't know if that took. I don't think many people
boycott the.
I don't think many people
took it that
seriously. But then, even the last elections, 2015 elections, there was generally low turnout in these states.
Would you say that the PDP would be to blame because this would have been their stronghold?
Yes.
And they should really have taken
they should have done
more time to mobilize people to come out.
Yes, they should have done far more. Even in Oyo State, where they won by a slight margin, about
1,000.
Just under 1,000 and something.
Yeah.
So they should have done more to bring a lot of people out because Oyo State is one place, just like Kwara rejected Saraki and the PDP. Oyo was trying to reject Ajimobi and the APC, but I don't think the PDP did enough work
to take advantage of that.
Exactly, to take advantage of that.
All right, Idowu, I'm just wondering, because you're a numbers guy or a data guy. We were just talking about the gap that the APC has given the PDP generally overall. As at last night, it was a 200,000 plus gap. And then by this morning, it spiked to almost 1 million. I'm just wondering, because again, we have issues of lots of people who registered, and then way less, maybe some for some 20%, you know, showed up for the elections. Generally, whether it be for the APC or the PDP, what is this saying about us and our attitude towards voting? Is there any sense of voter apathy in the air, or is it just the way of Nigeria?
Okay, so it might be a bit of both. Obviously, there is some disconnect between the initial interests that took them to go and register and the interest that matters on the D-Day, on the election day. Perhaps that means apathy. Perhaps it points to deeper issues in our value system as a nation, as a people. Perhaps we've resigned to fate. Perhaps that's what it says. Perhaps it means the bottom of the pyramid, the people who will come out en masse and vote, think that what's our vote going to mean anyway? You know. Perhaps these are all interpretations, these are possible interpretations. But the numbers always say what they say. You know, the other thing to mention is that the numbers aren't in completely yet. So these are early sentiments. These are early trends.
So we shouldn't be too quick to...
For all we know, it might...
draw conclusions.
The gap might close up. You know,
okay.
But, I mean, it could go either way.
I like your optimism, depending on which way you look at it.
Right.
Well, you're still watching Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa, and we're here to take you through this period when the votes are trickling in and to make sense of it all. While we await the resumption of the Collation Center in Abuja, hopefully by 3 o'clock we'll be hearing more from them. And thanks to our guests here in the studio, Najib Bello, and and also Ido Akinde. Thanks to them, we'll hopefully try and make some sense of all that we're getting. We're just going on a quick break, and when we return, we'll take you through some more of the issues that are arising.
And we're back. It's still the Plus TV Africa Nigeria Decide studio. Yes, we are watching the results trickle in by the minute. As we speak, INEC has taken a short break. They will be back at 3 p.m. to continue with the results. But we still have in the studio Najib Bello, political analyst, and Ido Akinde. He's an IT consultant. Before we get into the IT part of this, we're still talking about the numbers and, you know, some of the sentiments that are flying around. Let's talk about the issue of coalition. Now, we know that the coalition has taken forever in the States before it was taken to Abuja. As of last night, maybe it could have continued, but INEC was saying some people were supposed to be airbound, you know, all of these issues. And many Nigerians have complained. In fact, on a lighter note, some people are saying, just call the votes for the two big parties and then the others can go to the board and check it. But I mean, for all the years that we've spent doing democracy, should we have not gotten it right by now when it comes to these processes? Because they seem a bit too tiring and long. Even while we were talking to some people at the Lagos Coalition office, lots of them expressed displeasure at how lengthy the process was. I'm coming back to you, Ido. Why do you think that is? Why haven't we learned over the years?
All right. Okay. So that may be a bit of a complicated question in terms of the factors that contribute to where we are right now. I like to say, you know, quote unquote in absolute terms, that there's no reason why we should be here right now. Just look around us: banking, telecoms, the kind of technological advancements that we enjoy on a daily basis in cities like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, you know, Enugu, all over the nation. This is not the trend. This is far behind the trend. So it kind of makes you wonder: is there some intention,
deliberate,
deliberate intention to not want to automate this? Because the same people who are going through or are propagating this lengthy process use USSD on their phones, use mobile apps, call and demand instantaneous or near instant customer service.
So perhaps we should do a for and against.
Okay.
Kind of do a checklist.
Okay.
And say, okay, the things in favor of automating the system and making it electronic would be?
Okay. One, trust, which is probably the fundamental thing.
Credibility.
So, credibility. More and more people will trust the process, given the short length of time that it takes to release results. And it's kind of expected in 2019. If you look at African countries, not to talk of countries outside Africa, are already doing these things. That's one. Two, participation. I think that the same people.
You think more people will be involved
I think that more people will be involved.
Okay.
Convenience, ease of use.
Yes, which goes towards participation. Maybe security.
Security. So perhaps when we do a more detailed breakdown of all the aspects of the electoral process to which we can apply technology and which technologies we can apply, we can talk about how you can have body cams, you can have CCTV cams, you can have drone cameras, monitoring remote locations. There's too many technologies in 2019 for us to be sitting down for 48 hours or thereabout waiting for results to be collated.
So now I'm going to ask Najib though. Najib, any reasons why not? Let's try and be objective on this.
The primary reason is, of course, we've not put all these things in a bill, in our electoral bill and signed it. The few things we were supposed to sign in the last electoral bill, which was rejected, is electronic transmission of results, for instance. Yeah,
the whole e-voting thing.
Exactly. We would not need people to fly to Abuja with papers in order to know. Like right now, there are some party collation centers, there are some party results centers who have already electronically, from the results they've gotten from different polling units and different states, they've already been able to know, okay, this is how many votes we have nationally. But then INEC is still struggling to have reports from this person and that person to physically be submitted.
So is it that the bureaucracies that are behind our laws is the problem, or is it that we have somewhat made it look like a bit of a mirage to be able to get these things to work? Because I don't see any reason why we all can't come together and say, let's get this law signed.
Possibly the current system favors some particular politicians. It's possible, because it's difficult to understand how this thing has remained this way from 99. Let's say we've been practicing democracy straight up from 99 up till now. We would have known the problems that are affecting us and how we would have changed those problems. Secondly, the parties, we need to reduce the number of parties. Even if we are not transmitting electronically, let's say we are just doing everything physically the way we do now. Reading all of these parties, it's stressful, it's cumbersome. I think there must be a way. My suggestion is any party that didn't win any seat in any area,
you want it to mention? Please,
not just mention. They should delist them.
Ooh,
they should delist them. And yeah,
but you're gonna get pushed back, because we know that these parties get some stipends when it's election time. Well, so I mean, it's like you're coming to take our bread and butter.
It doesn't matter if you are registering a party because you want to declare for another president or declare for someone else and get paid for it. It's not our business. You should do it privately. Okay. There are people who don't run parties, who are just popular in their area and they declare support for a particular person.
But I thought the cost of even registering the parties was enough of a deterrent to stop people from flooding, from throwing themselves into that whole process in the first place.
INEC needs to take a stronger stance against this thing. We can't have so many parties. And from what we've seen, there are about 100 more parties
waiting.
By the time we register those 100 parties, I was telling him that our voting, the ballot paper may even look like agbada.
It might not even carry. So
we have to end all of that.
But maybe, because I'm trying to think in my head, what would make it so beautiful for these standby parties to want to also come join? It obviously means that the ones who are idle are obviously benefiting something, and the others are like, let's come and chop. You know, so obviously there's something that we probably do not know that is very juicy. I mean, I'm thinking, because we already had 91 and I saw the ballot paper, it was really long. And it was confusing also for even those who were voting.
Yes.
So.
There definitely are things that they are enjoying. Maybe some people just like to be called former presidential candidates. And, you know.
But we like titles in this part.
But then, one thing I saw in these elections and the last elections were people who have campaigned and have garnered some kind of fame in politics now coming to say, I hereby declare for this candidate, I hereby declare for that. I believe that there is some settlement going. That's what I can see for now. I don't know about anything else, but I believe there's some kind of settlement going, because you spend a lot of time and effort campaigning, building hope in other people. I don't see why you should just off your own accord wake up someday. You are challenging the status quo, and you are coming now to say, oh, I declare for this person who. So there must be something for them, and that does not benefit the nation.
Okay, I'm sorry to cut in, just to look at, because we're looking at the voter and how to simplify the process so that we can be more involved. So looking at it again from a data perspective, is there any other aspect of the voting process, the electoral process, that could be simplified so that the average citizen can feel that it's something they understand?
Okay, so yes, simple answer to that is yes.
Okay.
And the long answer is there are many areas. So starting from pre-election, where you are sensitizing and educating the polity, you're telling them what the process will be like this next election cycle, blah, 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 to the election season, where you are going through the various phases of registration, accreditation, actual voting, monitoring, ongoing monitoring of that entire process, disseminating information, and then post-election, where you want to analyze, do some kind of post-mortem on the process and look for how you can improve it. Look back and see which campaign funds, do some kind of campaign funds tracking, and so on and so forth. So for each of those stages, there are many technologies ranging from, so if I take it in categories, for the pre-election stage, you are really trying to do mass education. Because of the low levels of literacy in Nigeria, the kinds of technologies that would appeal will be things like USSD, which is that star 1, 2, 3 type of technology that is popular these days, for banking, for insurance, for all sorts of things. Things like voice prompts. So it's called IVR. Okay. So you call a number and you hear a prompt, and you follow that prompt, and and so on and so forth. Things like, or SMS, direct two-way SMS. So you text something, they reply you, text another thing, they reply you. So because the pre-election stage is heavy on mass media, mass communication, you want to have the lowest minimum, the technology that can address the lowest minimum. You want to be sure that the lady that sells dried fish in a riverine area somewhere in the Niger Delta can access your service, and you don't want to give her a mobile app that she can get, will confuse her. So that's for that stage. For the election proper stage, depending on how involved third parties are. So, for instance, there's usually the political parties who are key stakeholders. They are the candidates. They are the independent election. They are the media bodies like yourselves. They are the independent observers, local and international. Depending on how sophisticated they are technology-wise, you can give them mobile apps, okay, to enable them to independently collate and monitor these things. So, as INEC is doing their own collation, each party, each candidate, each election observer is having their own private record, so that when the results show up on the TV, if there's too much of a disparity, someone can quickly write a letter, strongly worded letter in legalese, and send it to the office of INEC, and so on and so forth. For the post-election, again, so like we mentioned earlier, the incident monitoring part of that election cycle, you also want to, INEC can enable or empower their agents with things like body cams or drone cameras it can be a little bit of a
Sounds
stretch,
expensive.
but at least their ideas worth considering. And then for the
I hear people saying we don't even have CCTVs and traffic. You're talking about body cams. I mean,
well,
that is the pessimistic side of us. So
But you could actually use your phone.
But you
to
know what they
perform
say
some
about
of this.
phones, you know, at polling units.
No,
and
not
all
at
that.
polling units, at polling booths, inside the polling booths.
Okay.
You are allowed to have your phone.
Oh, really?
Yes, you are.
You're allowed to have your phone at the polling unit. I'm talking about, instead of having body cams for now, INEC could
use
say,
of what
okay,
we have.
when as a polling unit, in charge of the polling unit, you can have your phone, set up your phone and put it on so live. There are different apps that we use to go live these days. It costs almost nothing. So such things, for now,
These
could help.
They're doable.
All right, interesting. All right, so you've talked about body cams. I'm trying not to say what I want to say. I'm trying to say it the nicest way. Yeah. You have a computer in front of you, a mobile phone. We literally have everything mobile. You want to complain about your SIM card, you have a voice prompt. For banking, it's that simple. I mean, so I'm just wondering, why are we so, what's the word? Why are we so away from the realities that we're already utilizing when it comes to the most important aspect? Do you understand? So I'm still trying to understand why we are so taken away from it. Every time it's close to elections and we come up with these ideas, it sounds so far-fetched. It sounds like it's never going to be able to happen. And it's the same learned people that you talk to about these other things on a normal day that kick against it.
And also, maybe I wanted to tag on to that, is to say, well, how are other African countries doing? So in case it's a progressive nation's affair, how
Dito
are Kenya...
for Senegal.
Yes.
Senegal just had elections, isn't it?
Senegal, they had their elections on Sunday, and by Monday, at least, they had they basically knew who had won.
But they're not as big a nation, populous
exactly,
as
but I
we are.
compared Senegal, who had about 6-something million registered voters, to Lagos, that had about the same number of registered voters. Compare them. Within 24 hours in Lagos, we didn't know what was happening.
Okay.
In Senegal, there were no people burning up ballot papers and whipping people who didn't belong in their party. And the system they used in Senegal, which I kind of liked, but that would still go back to reducing the total number of parties. They had like 4 or 5 parties running, with people running for president, and they put flyers of those party people on a desk. So when you want to go in, you take the 5 flyers, go into the booth. The one you want to vote for, you drop it into the box.
So
the rest,
easy.
you destroy them.
Excellent.
You know, then when everybody has done that, they take the remaining posters and destroy. But when you have 90 or 70 something parties doing that, it will now be you carrying almost a
You look like a newspaper vendor.
So
but that's quite helpful for people who are not literate.
Exactly, and it had pictures, like you're saying, it had pictures of the candidate and also the logo.
It's made simple.
Very simple, but first, before we can even try something like that, we have to reduce the number of parties.
Prune it.
But then electronic at the end of the day is the most viable thing we should do, because our population.
Because this is where the world is going to. And if we pride ourselves as the big brother of Africa, which I think we're becoming the last brother now, why aren't we leading? Okay, let's leave out countries like South Africa because they're way ahead of us, if not 1,000 years. But let's even go close to our brothers in Ghana. Let's go to smaller countries. I mean, why can't we just pick up and lead the way if we really are supposed to? When we have more people, we have more money. What is the challenge?
More at stake, seemingly.
I know.
Okay.
So to try again.
So I'll come at it from 2 angles, 2 opposite angles. Like Najib said earlier, the legislation angle is very important. So we need to correct or update the legislative framework that upon which this is based. That's the simpler part. From the other side, we need to do some serious civic education. I think that so like you said earlier, a good percentage of the elites who are comfortable, who are familiar with using technology in their everyday lives for everything from customer service to banking to fitness tracking and so on and so forth. Where were they on election day? They were in their houses, sleeping and watching the TV, okay? You notice the trends, and it's been repeating itself every election cycle, that the people who come out en masse and vote are not the people who are very familiar with these things, okay? So that's one segment of where I want to... The other part of it is that Nigerians, there seems to be some disconnect in the psyche of the average Nigerian between the current state or quote-unquote standard of living that we all have in Nigeria, just the average, not taking the highs and the lows, and how the electoral cycles translate to that thing. Okay. Somehow, it might take a concerted effort. Perhaps musicians should do their part, broadcast media should do their part, churches and mosques should do their part. It's going to take a reorientation of the average. But
we saw a lot of that this year. Let's give credit to those who, I have seen a church, they took it upon themselves to do videos, educating people on what to do, getting the permanent voters card, going to the polling units. I saw churches do that. And I also must praise the artists. I mean, Nollywood, and they came out en masse. It was really, really great what they did. But it's not enough.
Quite turn out, yeah.
It's not enough. Yeah. But we've gotten to that point where we're trying to use our influencers to get more attention. But you see, I'm sorry, it just ends with us here, the people who see them. I still go back to the woman who sells fish. How does she understand how to go about this? I hear that a lot of people who went to the polling units were asking questions. They were a bit confused, and you said something about that. That even though some of us who were that quite learned were confused because the ballot paper was long and
there were no names, logos. Just logos. But I want to please bear with me, because you said about the electoral cycles and the standard of living, and I'm still trying to understand what you mean by that.
Okay. So what I mean is, without picking out any candidate or any party, I think that the average Nigerian is not consciously, deliberately monitoring the quality of life that he or she had before, say, the last 2 electoral cycles, and the promises that were made during the electoral cycle. Compare that against the last electoral cycle, say 4 years ago, and the promises that were made.
Holding the politicians accountable.
Holding them accountable and seeing that, okay, so this is what you promised me. And this is how the last 4 years have been.
Yes.
This is what you promised me. This is how the last 4 years have been.
Yes.
I think that we're not that accountable. We don't have that
activist,
I will hold you responsible kind of spirit or kind of attitude. And I think it's very important, because we do these things in our own lives. If you go into a bank and they treat you shabbily, you will complain. If you walk into any other type of... But we haven't seen how this... If we made that connection, I think that we'll be more vocal, more involved, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you. We have to quickly go for a break. When we come back, I will take you on that last thing you said, because there's a lot to continue talking about. But it's still our election studios. We have to go for the news break, and when we come back, more from Nigeria This Side. Stay tuned.